Hi, I'm Domochivsky. In this video, I will present the process of what I have done during the 6th week. The video has been separated into 4 sections, including plans, week 2 process, week 4 process, and week 6 process. Each process explains the artworks that I am inspired, the process and the issues that I have met, and personal reflections. When I was a kid, toy store were my dream place, as there was a bunch of models of heroes, cars, vehicles, and robots. I was the fan of robots because I loved the feeling of machines and the sense of power. In my memory, there was a man sitting nearby the cashier texturing some model for selling. The thing of what he did which impressed me was that he colored the same model in various ways. I have bought some Japanese robot models. In order to make it look perfect, I try to learn how to color the model and add texture on it. However, because I have a really horrifying handcrafting skills, I try to save my work better, but it looks a piece of junk eventually. Since I have learned Unity, which is a powerful engine, I hope that I can use Unity to create a museum of my toy characters with different color or shaders to complete my childhood dreams. I will mainly control this project. It means that I will focus on 3D modeling, texturing, Unity shaders, and a bit of coding as well. However, I might add some animation for my models to bring a sense of dynamic. I believe I will look for the classmate and check with them regarding 3D animation. Currently, this is optional. There will be 2 main research during this project. I want to focus on shaders, as I want to know what there will be looks like if I shader a model in different art style. Even the model might doesn't match with the art style. Next, the relationship between models, texture, and shaders will be another interesting part to engage, because it might be influence the outlook of the model. Furthermore, texture and shader might have their own role in the games. For example, maybe I can build up a texture by purely using Unity material or purely using shaders. Also, I want to know how does texture and shader impact each other by displaying a series of models. Capturing the prototype and display them will be highlight the distinct differences. And also, I can present as a museum.
Mountains. The game of Mountain is a simulation designed by David O'Reilly, published by Double Fine Productions. The simulation presents a mountain with a bunch of objects on the mountains. Player can play the piano music by tapping the keyboards or viewing the mountains by using the mouse. The game produces a few sentences on the screen. It is trying to highlight something about the mountains or about the story behind the games. In my project, I plan to display a few sentences to describe the story behind my models. In addition, as I want to design a toy gallery by using Unity, I want the audience to focus on the object and hope them to see what is the story behind the object. Course Companion. Brains Donnelly is an American artist and designer. He also is a limited edition toys and clothing designer. His one of the well-known designs is a toy which has a Mickey Mouse garment with 2 big X's on the face. I'm engaged in the texture of the toys as there are plenty of texture displayed in his design. The artist is trying to use texture to play with the model and see the possibility of combinations. I plan to design a model with various texture and display in Unity, as it will help me to research the shaders of the Unity and the texture in Substance Painters. Also, I will understand the relationship between the texture and shader and the differences between them. During these 2 weeks, I have done a number of sketches. Even though I mainly focus on the research about Unity shaders and texture of the model. However, I want to design a model for myself as I can do a bit of research on 3D modeling of Maya. Also, the process of designing a model is similar as what I did in my childhood, which shows a strong correlation to my theme. Furthermore, I may change my mind in the future plan. At least I have a concept of a main object and keep developing. Thus, these 2 weeks I focus on my sketches for my topic. I have taken a bunch of references of the model in mental hobbies. Also, it includes a few of images from Pinterest, because I want to design a 3D model and import into Unity. I take the image and sketch them to see which type of model is my favorite and relate to my theme. On the sketch page, I am not only focused on one type of model, also there are airfighters, tanks, robots, characters. However, I still have no idea what I want to create. Then, I changed my mind to target my feeling of failure when I was a kid, as I had a terrible handcrafting skills when I was young. I want to sketch a cartoony kid of my portrait. I have found some image of my young portrait because I cannot remember how I look, even though there are a few references which I can completely follow them to design my portrait. I believe that our memory is blurred to remind the details of the past. There are no eye contact in my sketches. There are other sketches in this page. I designed 2 messy robots by combining various images. I don't like to see my work to become a junk, because it brings a sense of uncomfort and chaos. It doesn't look like the image on the boxes, because the model is supposed to look cool rather than looking confused. That was what I thought when I was a kid. Furthermore, the sketches which display the kid is surrounded by the part of model highlight the sense of depression, as it shows that the kid is surrounded by failure. In this page, I realized that making model is simple, as I can follow the instruction from the manual. However, what pushed me stress is coloring the model, as it's hard to control the color thickness. Because of that, I keep using tissue to clean it up, but it looks worse than before. I sketched the process of how I made the model, from successfully structuring the model to fail on coloring the model. I think I have slightly a clear structure of what I'm going to do next. I will focus on the melting model to design a 3D model in Maya. What I will do is I will design each type of model which shows on the sketch, because I might display the process of how I make the models. Also, I want to display that the colors are collapsing, which looks like one of the sketches. After completing the model, I will start my main research in Unity, which is texturing and shadering. Maybe I will use Substance Painter to design various textures and import into Unity. Carter Moore. I'm engaged in the desert simulations. Carter Moore presented a manga style of 3D models, which highlight the scenes of old school of sci-fi. The saturation of the color shows a strong contrast which strongly separates shadows and light. Furthermore, there are a bunch of lines present on the figure of the spaceship. It shows a relationship with the 2D manga styles. I plan to design the shaders of the model by using this manga style. However, I currently don't know whether it is the texture of the model or the shader of the models, as texture influences the model of the shader, and shader is the way to improve the texture, which both of them will be present on the surface of the model. Consequently, I may need to do some research on this and play on the model at the same time. Irene Halley. Irene Halley is a character designer and animation designer. The designer used shapes and color to display the scenes. I'm engaged in the art style of the animation, as the art style brings a sense of relaxation. Also, the strong saturation of the colors enhanced the feeling of the comfort. The other factor which brings a sense of comfort is that the shadow of the animation doesn't display a strong contrast with the colors. It is different to the artist, Calder Moore. My next plan will be researching the shader of the artist in Unity and trying to combine with the art style, which I believe it might be lined with less shadow shapes. During these 2 weeks, I have drawn a sketch for my 3D model. I draw a front view and a back view of the model with colors. I didn't worry too much about the colors currently, as my research contains texture. In my opinion, I believe color is part of textures. I will play with colors the ones I work on Unity. But first, I use Maya to build up the model and cut the UV as well, as I want to texture the model in Custom Painter. The UV map must be arranged properly. As my model is a robot, most part of the model present metal texture. In order to make it as real as possible, I add some metal rough texture on the edge of the model. Honestly, I didn't take seriously in this process, cause I haven't found any artist related to realistic art style yet. Once I import a texture in Unity, I'm not only using the texture created in Custom Painter, also I use the Unity material to play on the model. Furthermore, I learned shader graph and try to produce manga style, and it works finally. However, it is still not close to the art style of Carter Moore, as the black lines only present on the outline of the figures. I have to find a way to highlight the lines of the surface of the model in the future. There are some issues I have met during the process. In Maya, there are some polygons which are very tiny that I have to notice by deleting the other polygons. Otherwise, I can't exclude the polygons. In Unity, there is a surface which doesn't have any color on it, which is either the texture issues or the UV issues. I believe I haven't done well on the UV, so I have to go back to Maya and re-edit the UV and redesign the texture in Substance Painter again. In addition, I realized that there's no shader graph in Unity of 2020. Thus, by searching on Google, I use Unity 2021 of Universal Render Pipeline to redo the texture in Unity. In addition, I have found some tutorial of Toon Shader, but I don't understand codings, even though they have explained on it. I feel I'm comfortable on shader graph properly because the image and connecting lines are better than codes, or in other words, it's easy to understand. In the next 2 weeks, I have a few things that I need to do. First, it's coding, as I want to create an exhibition of models. I want player can use mouse and keyboard to walk around the places. The skybox in Unity looks awful because it doesn't match with my model's art style. I'll need to redesign of the skybox later. The main thing I'll focus on is to continue on exploring the texture and shader. Regarding the texture, I will search a few realistic art style of artists to display the art style of my model. Furthermore, I will focus on the other art style of the shaders, including other tool shaders, liquid shaders, and light shaders. Once I have done the shaders, I can combine the shaders to see the outcomes, because it might produce some interesting effects.
I want to design a texture which looks like the texture on a robot wall E, as I don't like the rusting feeling, but it reminds me a fair model that I made in childhood. It shows a strong correlation with the topic as well. I plan to create another texture in Substance Painter. Also, I designed to add some dust or mud effect on the model. However, I need to create a model of for mod because it brings a sense of realistic and shows that the mod robot has been a junk. Furthermore, I changed the color from red to blue as it displays a strong contrast between blue and brown. I am interested in the energy field as I want to see what happens if I only use light effect on the model. The texture of the energy field is transparent, but I can feel that there is a gap between the outside and inside, which shows a sense of thickness. I'm also interested in the age of the energy field as the light is stronger than the middle of the energy field. It might be that there are a few layers that overlapping together. Thus, I want to see this shader to display with my model. There is a special model in the games that you can see because I want to bring a feeling of failure to the audience, and one the draft its previous sections has strongly highlighted the scenes. Instead of complete remodeling, I used the original model to rearrange the form and into a messy way. I don't worry about how it looks like, but it must be as messy as possible because I want to show that I didn't have a good handcrafting skill in my childhood. After completing the UV editing and modeling, it is the final work and ready to import in Substance Painter. Before texturing the messy robot, I need to create a big chunk in ZBrush as it will be handy to sculpt the details in ZBrush, and I want to improve the feeling of rusty. After the tedious work of retopology, it's time to focus on the textures. I changed the color pattern by using comparison colors, including blue and brown. I don't like to see a metal with light colored, especially light blue, as I believe it will be very easy to be dirty. I also add some rust texture on the robot to improve the feeling of ruin. In addition, I add some mud texture to the junk model and the color from the robot, as well as I want to present the feeling of melting from the model. Once I finishing the texture and import into Unity, I realize that there's a big edge on the model, which looks awful. I decided to redo the texture again, but it doesn't help a lot. The line still looking distinct. Furthermore, I don't want to present the edge of junk model. Instead, I want to blur the edge by decreasing the opacity of the edge, as it looks realistic. I eventually rearranged the model in Maya and redo the texture in Substance Painter. And this is the final model. Currently, there's issues with the age of the model because I don't know why there's no opacities producing on the model. So what I'm doing is I lower down the position of the model, and this is the effect, which is similar to opacity. Then I target oil pollution shader because I feel the colorful pollution shader makes me sick. However, I have found an image for the base color texture. Next, I have found a waterfall tutorial because I like how the water shader flowing on the surface of the model. I plan to replace the texture showing on the tutorial to the color oil texture. In addition, I searched the energy field tutorial as I want to present a feeling of transparent because oil on the seas, it's kind of semi-transparent. But I want to present the feeling of that the middle is transparent rather than the edge of the model. I use Fresnel effect to build up the transparent effect because this effect can strongly produce the middle transparent effect. However, when I start the games, it presents too much transparent effect, which I merely can see the outline of the model. It is not what I want. I try to play around with the Fresnel effect, but it doesn't look well either. Thus, I delayed the effect of the energy field, which is a kind of failure, and I changed the color patterns for the oil. This is how it looks. As it looked dark, so I decided to figure out the problem. I keep testing the shader to see how the color goes by editing and deleting the connect lines. I found a line which is connected to the base color. Once I deleted it back to normal. I forgot to add shader to another junk model. I duplicated shader graph for the other one. Nevertheless, it displayed a bright effect, which doesn't match with the first one. I wonder where is the issue, and finally when I'm testing the normal map, it's back to normal style. I changed the normal map and everything looks fine. Thus, this model is finished and displayed the appearance. In response to this small model in the games, I want to continue on the energy field study to produce an energy field texture model. I start to play with the screen positions node in the shader graph, and I noticed that it impacts the color behavior. There are four selections that I can choose, which are default, raw, central, and tiles. And these selections that will change the way of how colors reflect on the models. Then I'm doing a test on the golden model as I want to highlight the shiny twinkly feelings, just like the realistic gold. But I produced a snow feature. I didn't realize that will happen. Maybe it connect wrong lines or something else. But I like it, so I decided to leave it as a new collection. During the project, I suddenly feel my yellow bright light model brings a sense of firefly. Yet, the only matter is the size, so I changed the scale of the model, which looked pretty. There's issues happen between in the game scenes and process scenes, as I can see the immersive effect in the project scenes rather than the game scenes. I have such a bunch of ways to figure out what is going on in here, but I found that there's a small button below the render selections in the camera's inspector, which is the post-process functions. That works again. I have a model which displays reverse textures. Originally, I was doing a research of Unity transparent model to see my model. However, the function of transparent in Unity is reversing the texture. That doesn't what I want. In the games, I have another model which presents a real transparent or even invisible textures. It is an accident. As I was engaged in the process of learning energy field shaders, I saw this model and this is what I am looking for of transparent effect. Then I come up with another weird idea, but it is fun. I realized that can use the shader to create a style of Irene Haley art style. I stopped continuing on the energy field shader to play with the color shader. Nevertheless, the volume of color is hard to be controlled as they are connected to the immersive node board. I add the basic color value and adjust the value of both, and this is the final artwork. It displays a kind of similar effect, yet it looks very bright if the camera is far away from object. I believe it is the camera issues, but I currently have no idea how to solve that problem. It might be related to the factor of post-processions. In order to create a feeling of museums, I start to play with code. First, I create a games object and place the camera into the object to design a first player view. Then, I give a moving functions and zooming functions, which player can walk around in the museums and browse the artworks. Don't forget to add box collider to each object, as I don't want player can go through the objects. In addition, I build up the museum by adding the wall and arrange the artwork, which improve the feeling of the museums. After finishing the tag, the project is done. Thus, a simulation of toys museums has complete. During the 6 weeks project, what I have learned are I have played a bunch of shaders graphed in Unity, even though some of the shaders that I have done are not what I expect. The surprising result brings me a sense of interest to push me research more interesting outcomes. I also like modeling and texturing the model, as it brings me back to the memory in my childhood. In addition, once I complete the gallery, I feel like they are all my collections. Some of the model looks spectacular and the other looks weird, but honestly, they perform as artwork in my study. There are something that I can improve. As I present a gallery of museums, I can play with the light and environment if I have more times. Or maybe I can learn in Portfolio too. Also, the main thing of the project doesn't highlight strong enough, which I want to present how was my handcraft skill in my childhood. I can try to target this direction for my next folio. It express more feeling of my childhood rather than just gallery artwork.